And I gotta say, you know, fawn is great and all because it's a color for like a dog, like a chihuahua or whatever, any dog. Fawn is a color. But what I gotta say is I learned about that when I took Bumba to the Miramonte veterinarian that was across the street from St. Francis, okay? Fawn is a color, according to that veterinarian. After she had like a hemorrhoid situation happen, I took her to that veterinarian. So yeah, that's when I learned about the color fawn. But what I gotta say is, when I read the book that was from something Berlin, that was the name of the author, Troublemakers, and I was learning about fawn. At the time I was thinking, oh, how interesting. She's got such a cool name, just like a, you know, like I was thinking of Sub-Zero, the festival and the art that woman had done that was selling art. She did some really great pictures of mermaids, and then she did some of like the kind of like the mythological creatures that, you know, were hybrids, you know, part animal, part person. So I put some of those over. So when I went back to where I grew up, I put some of those pictures there where I grew up, just because I wanted there to be a connection for Bumba, and for, you know, for the birds too, that they could kind of access and feel comfortable with, you know, from at least that perspective, and then that way they could also access some of the benefits from Walt Disney, you know. So that's why. Plus, I know it's important to kind of like almost like bring your own picture, you know, bring your own image, and not that it's their image, like I built it for them or anything, but I was hoping that we could all share it, you know, like I did one that I put next to the hotel, and I put it strategically by that hotel over in Los Altos that was also reminding me of Dracula, just because it looked like Lucy, you know, had kind of a lot of energy. Not really energy to be tapped, but it's like, it looked like she had a lot of support, you know, and so I was trying to link up to whoever had the most support. You know, like if we're all slaves, then I would probably want to be linked up to the plantation that has, you know, the most the most support. You know what I mean? That's why. But you know, it's like, of all of the, you know, possibilities, what would you want? You know, that's kind of like how I see things. But that's because I have experience with slavery too. So like that's, and it's just logical, you know, like, you know, if you can picture yourself in slavery, you know, like then you know that you'd want to be in the household that had the most support, right? And also the greatest chance and opportunity for you to reconnect with your family. You know, that's it. So, you know, you probably wouldn't be thinking about weather so much. You just really care about those other things. You know, that's how I see that. But okay, so fawn is also the name of a deer. Okay, I don't know where that transferred, exactly where fawn became like a color, or whether the color fawn became a deer, but that's what it is. And maybe that's because, excuse me, all deer are pretty much that color. I don't know. But maybe that's because when an animal is that color, it's a sign that they're also a deer. You know, could be that. And so it doesn't matter what type of animal it is. It's just like, it could be a chihuahua, it could be a cat, it could be even a bird. But it's like, if you're that color approximately, you're also a deer, you know, could be that. But instead of saying deer, because it sounds a little bit like a message or a note, they say fawn. I don't know. Maybe it's linking up to Fonzie or something from Happy Days. Could be. And that's probably why Juan used to say happy days. But I also think it's because that is linking up to, Fawn, is linking up to San Julian, which is saying San Julian in Mexico. And they are known for two things. That's, three things. One's kind of personal, though, and that's because of what he had mentioned, that he was considering buying a house for like $5,000 or a piece of land for $5,000, which for them in that town is a lot of money. At least it was back then. Probably not anymore. It's probably really expensive now. But the point is that you know, and there's lots of drugs there and cartel, and you don't want that. You know, so it's very, very strict. People could die, you know what I mean? So, like, if there's any Mormons or whatever, like, that are listening, I know that sometimes it gets to be really tempting to try and, like, you know, come up on that, like, for example, the solar panels in the solar industry. But I don't recommend it. I remember there was something that happened not too long ago with some Mormons that went into Mexico and were doing some kind of business thing, and that did not wind up so good for them. You know, that they had started some kind of other community, you know, to live at in Mexico. And I know it's really tempting to do that because it's affordable, more affordable than the United States, but they are not going to put up with any shit when it comes to, like, you know, you have more wives than me or whatever. They're not going to put up with that. So yeah, I don't recommend any of that shit. But yeah, so like I said, one was personal, like that's personal, and then cool. I just heard like a horn, you know, honk, from like a semi truck. Tells me that we understand. We're like, we understand. That was a strategically timed horn, is what I'm saying. Sorry. Strategically timed horn, and I guess when I dropped my phone, it was like saying, that's a takeaway. No, a takeaway, like it's personal. Okay. And then the second thing that I wanted to say, okay, so there are two things that I got to say about that location regarding the name Fawn. And that is, okay, so that's why there's Dancing Fawn too. So it's connecting to Cazadores, and it's connecting to Cajeta. That's why Nicolas Cage. That's it. Okay.